She treats Feyre like her pain is a toy and that it's fun, and it's just all gross. Welcome back, and before I get into it, I want to apologize if you can hear the rain in the background. It is literally pouring right now, so I'm going to try to get through this despite that. Now, the book we're going to be talking about today is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Now, I have heard this book talked about, but aside from like the title and the basic premise and the author, I haven't had any spoilers for this, so that's good. But before I get into spoilers for you guys, I wanted to show the summary and talk about what it's about. And it says, when 19-year-old huntress Feyre kills a wolf in the woods, a terrifying creature arrives to demand retribution. Dragged to a treacherous magical land she knows about from only legend, Feyre discovers that her captor is not truly a beast, but one of the lethal immortal fairies that once ruled her world. At least he's not a beast all the time. As she adapts to her new home, her feelings for this fairy, Tamlin, transform from icy hostility into fiery passion that burns through every lie she's been told about the beautiful, dangerous world of the Fae. Something is not right in the fairylands. An ancient, wicked shadow is growing, and Feyre must find out a way to stop it or doom Tamlin and his world forever. Now, this kind of, from the jump, gives Beauty and the Beast vibes with an element of a fantasy love story. It's probably why I kind of latched onto this, is because it's more a love story than it is a fantasy story. Now that the summary is out of the way, let's get into talking about the characters. There are a whole host of main characters, but the one we're going to talk about first is Feyre. Now, Feyre is a 19-year-old human who is very much down on her luck. She is the sole person bringing in meals for her two sisters and her father and herself, after her father lost their fortune to some bad business dealings, and the men that he did those dealings with came and shattered his knee. Through that, and to be able to do that, she becomes a huntress and then sells her catches and their furs at the market to get whatever leftover coin she can once her and her family eats. Now, I feel like in the beginning, Feyre is an interesting character, and then in the middle she starts to lose some agency once she gets into Tamlin's court, and at the end she starts to get that agency back. The next character we focus on is Tamlin, a high fae lord that can shift into a beast wolf form. And Tamlin always has like this golden mask on, and she asks him why he can't take it off, and he doesn't give her straight answers, but he cannot take the mask off. And I feel like Tamlin in this very much treats Feyre much better than the Beast did in Beauty and the Beast, because this feels very much like a Beauty and the Beast retelling. So it's nice to see that he didn't treat her like a jerk. He's very much like, you're not my slave, you're not my prisoner, you can go wherever you want to in my castle. The next character we focus on is Lucien, and Lucien is kind of Tamlin's right-hand man and his best friend, and he's kind of the stoic, quiet type that only really speaks when he has something to say or when spoken to. He doesn't seem to like the idea of Feyre being there, although he is cordial and respectful towards her. For a second, you think there's just going to be this back and forth between the three of them. On top of them, you have this mysterious she that keeps mentioning, and that's all you know about her. She's powerful, she's ruthless, and she's a she. That's it. Through a lot of this book, and you're like, who is this she that everyone seems to be afraid of? And you keep feeling her looming presence over this story as you read it. And you want to find out who this she is, and we'll get to that a little bit later. The next character, the character by the name of Rhysand, and we first meet Rhysand when Feyre goes to a party. And at first we're like, what is this guy's motives? Why is he helping a lowly human, as he calls her? What's his game? He's from the Night Court, and he can materialize and rematerialize from shadow. He is very much a person where at first you're like, I don't know about you, but then you start to warm up to him. But all the characters were really well done. They all had their own motives, they all had their own reasons, they all had their own really thought out backstories, and you kind of cared about all of these main characters equally. There were no like, I like that one better, I like that one better, I like that one better. No, you liked them all equally. At least I did. I don't know about others reading it, but I liked them all equally. I feel like she's very good at writing characters and making characters' motives understood and making characters work together and be foils of each other. I enjoyed all the characters. Let's get into the summary of this story. Now this book is a high fantasy. And if you don't know what high fantasy means, it means that it's set in a world that is not ours. Like City of Bones, for example, by Cassandra Clare, is a medium fantasy because it's set in our world. A high fantasy is a world that is not our own. In this world, we see that tensions between the Fae and humans are not very good. There was a war hundreds of years ago that led to a treaty to keep the Fae from completely wiping out humanity. The humans stay on their side of the wall, and the Fae are supposed to stay on their side of the wall. Despite being able to wipe out the humans as easy as sneezing, they keep to the treaty. On the human side of the wall, we see Feyre out hunting, and she hunts to keep her family fed because her dad has an injured leg and injured pride after losing his business to bad business and dealing with the repercussions of losing that business, and snobby sisters that don't do anything to help her. So one day, Feyre is out hunting and she finds a deer. When she kills the deer, however, a wolf comes out of nowhere and she gets angry, realizing that this isn't just a wolf, but it's a Fae. And because of what happened during the war and because of stories passed down from generation to generation, humans hate the Fae, except for a few that are called the Blessed, which are like brainwashed cult worshiper kind of portrayed. So Feyre, despite the wolf not doing anything to her, takes aim and kills the wolf. Well, this has repercussions, however, because a few days later, a half-bear, half-wolf beast busts through her door and demands to know who killed his friend. And Feyre, fearing that this beast might kill her family, goes, "It was me. I did it. Leave them alone. Take your pound of flesh with me." Tamlin decides to take a loophole in the treaty and take Feyre to his castle. He doesn't treat her as a slave. He's very much like, I will not be like my father was. My father kept slaves. He tortured them. He used them like toys. I'm not going to be like my father. You are not my slave. You don't even have to stay here. You just cannot leave Pyranth or Pythan or however you say the Fae world's name. With this being a Beauty and the Beast retelling, the Beast in this scenario is much better in this book than he was in Beauty and the Beast for sure, because the Beast in Beauty and the Beast definitely kind of kept her locked up and was a total asshole. But in this, he's very much like, no, you're not my slave, you're not trapped here, you don't even have to live with me. You just can't leave, because I need my pound of flesh for the treaty, but I won't be like my father. I don't want to hurt people. And she goes, okay, fair, but I'm gonna stay here where I know that you don't want to hurt me, as opposed to all these other Fae that I know nothing about. And we see Feyre, every chance she gets at first, she tries to escape. She's like, I can't leave my family back in the human world to starve. I have to get out of here because I'm the only one that was putting food on the table for them, and I can't imagine my dad would get over his fear and finally do something to help. I have to get out of here. Something keeps getting in her way, whether it's Tamlin or whether it's one of the servants or Lucian or another Fae that's out and about. And through all of this, Feyre starts to accept her situation and be like, I can't outpower these Fae, I'm just a human. I have no ability to fight them. And on top of that, she keeps overhearing things about a blight or this evil she that scares even Tamlin, a lord of the Fae. And for the longest time as a reader, you're sitting there going, who is this she and why is she so terrifying that even a high Fae lord is afraid of this she? You don't know. You don't know her motives. You don't know her abilities. You don't know anything about her other than she is a she is ruthless, and she is evil. That's all you know. You don't know what she wants, why she's doing it, nothing. And so Feyre eavesdrops and hears all this stuff about what's going on with the blight that's taking the power from the Fae, and with this mysterious she who keeps sending threats. And they were like, why does this she hate you so much? What is her problem? And no one's giving Feyre a straight answer. They said, you don't need to know these things. Just know that you can't do anything about it, and we're trying to figure out the situation as best as we can. Despite all this, Feyre starts to get comfortable in her situation when she hears that Tamlin had taken care of his family. We get to see them kind of connecting, and her trying to get over her hatred of the Fae, because she's starting to realize that the stories might not be right and the Fae might not be as bad as originally said. In the midst of all this, it all comes to a head one day when this man shows up out of nowhere at some festival. And this man is none other than a shadow wielder, at least I think that's what he is, because he's a member of the Night Court, and he can disappear and reappear anywhere he wants using shadows. So I'm just going to call him a shadow wielder, which that would make this the second book in a row where I've had a character in it that was a shadow wielder. But well, like, what are the odds of that? But Rhysand is an older Fae, much older than Tamlin himself, who we don't exactly know how old he is, but we know he's old. So this Fae finds Feyre at this festival and sort of comes back to Tamlin and been like, she won't like this. She is not going to like this. And again, we're like, who is this she? Why is she such a threat? He goes to Tamlin and he's like, you know I'm going to have to tell her about this human, that you have this human here. And he's like, you got to get out of here. You got to split. You got to go, run, tell your family to get out. And then she realizes, I can't leave him to her. And so Feyre goes to where this evil she is hiding under a mountain and has to deal with it. And this is where it gets a little gross. So if you're not good with descriptions of body horror and torture, slavery, this might be where it turns you off, because this she is ruthless. She treats Feyre like her pain is a toy and that it's fun, and it's just all gross. If torture and really strong descriptions of that are not your thing, this book might turn you off. Honestly, there were some points where I was like, okay, I need to set this down a minute and take a break, because the descriptions of that are getting a bit much. So just be aware of that going in, that there are some really dark moments and some really brutal descriptions. So if that's not your thing, this book isn't for you. But I feel like her writing in this was really well done. It reminded me of Rachel Mead's writing. It's very easy to read. The writing style flows nice. I enjoyed it. I feel like, though, it did not need to be, I don't know how many books she said were in the series. I think there were 5. I did not think there needed to be 5 in the series. Honestly, if you wanted to, you could read this book as a standalone, because it's got a good ending that leaves you satisfied. The whole story seems wrapped up, and it kind of makes it being another book or 4 more after this one kind of seem like it doesn't need to exist. So I'm wondering if the second book isn't going to focus around another one of the courts and another characters, or if it's going to continue with the storyline of Tamlin and Feyre, because it felt like this book wrapped up really nicely. With that being said, because my family member let me borrow this already, I'm going to start this sometime soon. So, hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time.